The town of Berlin. Country charm at the center of Connecticut.
Okay, everyone, how are you? Nice to see everybody. If we call this town council meeting to order, and if we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilor Campanelli. Councilor Evans.
Here.
Mayor Kaczynski.
Here.
Councilor Luddy. Councilor Pinessa.
Here.
Councilor Rosette.
Here.
Councilor Rosso. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Okay. First up tonight, we have some Eagle Scouts here. Glad to see you guys here. And what we'll do is we'll present your, you guys have your official ones, right? Yeah, okay. So what I will do is read the first proclamation. I'm going to read it from here and read about your project, then we'll go up and we'll shake hands and congratulate you. The first one is Paul Choma, and let me read what your project was, Paul. Paul's project was to build a shed for the YMCA on Main Street. He began the project in September of 2015 and finished in the middle of November. The project itself was to demolish the existing shed and construct a new one, and he was able to complete it with the help of family, friends, and members of Troop 41. Paul was in charge of organizing the project and directing the people on the site. Money for the project was raised by him from his family and friends, and he also received generous donations from Line and Billiard for some of the materials. The YMCA was in desperate need for a new shed, as the previous one was falling apart, infested with bees, and a hazard to everyone around it. Paul's project made the YMCA safer for our community. So if you meet me up here with your proclamation. Congratulations on that project. I'll read your proclamation here for everyone to hear. Town of Berlin Town Council proclamation. Be it hereby known to all that the Town of Berlin recognizes Paul Choma on achieving the rank of Eagle Scout, Boy Scouts of America. In recognition of his commitment to his family, community, and the principles of Eagle Scouting, the Town Council congratulates Paul and extends best wishes to him and all of his future endeavors. Dated this 25th day of March 2017, Mark H. Kaczynski, Mayor. Congratulations, Paul. Great project.
Thank you very much.
Glad you worked hard. I know you worked hard for this, and thanks. Want a picture with us holding his... yes, we'll open it up. How about that? Great. Thanks.
Thank you very
Thanks. Okay. Next up. Second one we have tonight is Alex Keith Glabau. Is that how? Make sure I get that right. I'm going to read your project first, Alex. To attain Alex's rank as Eagle Scout, Alex needed to come up and successfully execute a project to demonstrate all the skills that he had learned through scouting. Alex's project was conducted at the Klingberg Family Center, 370 Linwood Street, New Britain, Connecticut. His project entailed restoring the entryway to an old potato cellar, which was used in the 1930s to store food during the winter when Klingberg was used as an orphanage. To accomplish this, a large area of brush was cleared surrounding the cellar, topsoil and grass seed was spread, a decorative door was installed, and a wooden railing was built and installed for safety. Materials were acquired through donations collected, and food to feed the volunteers implementing this project was donated by his grandmother, Marion Morano, a local business owner in Berlin. All of the work was completed by members of Boy Scout Troop 24, along with the help of a few friends from Berlin High School. The project preserves a portion of the original orphanage from our nation's past and will be part of the museum located at the center, helping to provide an understanding of our local American history for generations to come. Great. Meet me up here with your interesting project. Oh, that's all right. You have one I could, here, let me read. I got the copy. I'll read it. Should have these memorized by now. I've done a lot of them, but best that I read it. Town of Berlin, Town Council proclamation. Be it hereby known to all that the Town of Berlin hereby recognizes Alex Keith Laval on achieving the rank of Eagle Scout, Boy Scouts of America. In recognition of his commitment to his family, community, and the principles of Eagle Scouting, the Town Council congratulates Alex and extends best wishes to him in all of his future endeavors, dated this 21st day of May, 2017, Berlin, Connecticut. Mark H. Kaczynski, Mayor. Congratulations. Probably that way, right there. Over there. Yeah. All right, great. Congratulations again. Nice job. Here, you want the copy too? There you go. Thanks a lot. Great projects, guys. Great commitment to the community. Thanks for coming. Good luck. Good luck in the future. Sure you guys will have no problems out there in the world. Okay. Next is our audience of citizens. So I see nobody has signed up. If anybody wishes to speak at the audience of citizens, now is the time, or forever hold your peace, at least for tonight. Seeing no hands, all right, I will go ahead and close the audience of citizens, and we'll move on to our meeting agenda. First, we have our consent agenda, which consists tonight of 10 different items. Various things on our consent agenda. I know all the counselors have read through this, and if we have no questions at the moment, let's take a motion.
Mayor, I move to accept the consent agenda's items number 1 through 10.
Okay, is there a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion? Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. All right, so we'll move on to. We have our public hearings, right? Yeah. So we have 2 public hearings tonight. Just, okay, our first public hearing is on the Neighborhood Assistance Act. So at this time, I'd like to call the first public hearing to order, and just mention that this is a public hearing that will be conducted on June 6th, 7 o'clock in Council Chambers at Town Hall to discuss the 2017 Connecticut Neighborhood Assistance Act tax credit program and to solicit citizen input. It's the Connecticut Neighborhood Assistance Act tax credit program involves a tax credit to business firms that make cash investments in qualifying community programs conducted by tax-exempt or municipal agencies. This particular one is made by St. Paul's Church. They wish to submit a proposal for the 2017 Connecticut Neighborhood Assistance Tax Credit Program. They will the proposal is to seek replacement of the church boiler, which has been in place since the early 1960s, and it would be replaced with a more energy efficient boiler. So at this point, that's the purpose of the hearing. If I could just take a motion to waive the reading of the legal notice and have the town clerk attach the legal notice to the minutes.
Mayor, I move to waive the reading of the legal notice and have the town clerk attach the legal notice to the minutes.
Thank you. Can I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So now, since we are in a public hearing, it would be the time to take any public comments. So if anyone of the public wishes to speak on this public hearing, now is the time. Seeing none, I will close the public comment. I will close the public comment section of our meeting and move on to our town council comments. So, anyone on the town council?
I just have a question, and I don't know if anybody here can answer it. And I should know this because we've been doing this one for many years. But in terms of the actual Neighborhood Assistance Act itself, Kate, maybe you know, is this published? Is it something that organizations seek out themselves? Is it something that's publicized?
My understanding is yes, that it is publicized
Okay.
and that anyone has an opportunity to apply.
Is it limited to one organization per town, so anybody can ask for it? Okay, thank you.
Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep, statewide, yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other comments from the council? Hearing none, I will close the council portion of our meeting, and I will, at this point, have a motion to close the public hearing at 7:17.
Move to close the public hearing, Mayor.
Second on that? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We will vote on that in our next meeting. The second public hearing tonight, we'll convene a public hearing for $500,000 school security vestibules appropriation and bond ordinance. The ordinance, which is the subject of this public hearing, is available to the public and may be obtained at this meeting from the town clerk. So at this point, I need a motion and a second to read the title of the following proposed ordinance and to waive the reading of the remainder of the ordinance, incorporating its full text into the minutes of this meeting.
I move let me say the whole title.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I didn't
It's
have
the
that.
So
Yeah, I've
moved.
got that.
Yeah, yeah.
So moved, Mayor.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Second on that? Second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. The motion passes. And now we're at the public comment section again. Anybody in the public wishes to speak or make any comments on this ordinance? Now would be the time. Seeing none, we'll close that section of the meeting. If any counselors need to make any comments, now would be the time. Hearing none, I will call the public hearing on the $500,000 school security vestibule bond ordinance closed. And we will vote on that at our next meeting. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on now to item number 1.
The first item on the agenda is a library summer reading prize program. The library would like to offer an incentive of a Kindle Fire as part of a grand prize. It would be paid for from town funds in the programs and activities line item.
Okay, great. Thanks. Can you take a motion on this?
Move to approve a purchase. I move to approve the purchase of a Kindle Fire tablet for $94.99 using the funds in the library's programs and activities budget line item.
Second? Second. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Number 2. Bless you.
The second item is as part of the Berlin High School basketball and tennis court project. It was identified that the lighting should be upgraded to energy efficient lighting. The original intent was to bid this out, but after looking at time and financial constraints, the town would like to purchase the items and utilize town employees to do the work.
Okay. We have a motion on this for discussion?
I move to purchase all lighting and associated materials for the Berlin High School tennis courts from All Phase Electric Supply of Enfield, Connecticut, utilizing State of Connecticut DAS contract 15PSX0284 in the amount of $50,008.57 and to authorize a 10% contingency fee of $5,000 if necessary to bring total contract amount to $55,008.57.
Thank you. Is there a second on that? Second. Discussion?
A couple questions.
Yes.
And Doug, maybe you can answer these. So I know that we are keeping the existing poles and just painting those, is that correct?
Good evening. Yes,
Okay, so what are we actually purchasing for $50,000?
it's the light fixtures themselves and all the LED replacement heads, all the lighting shields, everything that goes to retrofit the existing pole.
And how many fixtures are there actually out there?
30.
30, okay. All right, thank you.
Questions? Any questions?
Just
Yes.
one other question.
Yes.
That material also calls for additional cross arms. That's the pieces that lead out to the shields, the light shields. That would also include that part of it.
Yes, correct. A lighting design consultant performed the design, and they specified all the material, working with our engineer. So the bill of material references all the lighting and associated hardware.
Okay, and it looks you went to, saw some current bids that had been in place and looked at it. In essence, got 3 bids on materials. And is there any insight that you'd like to share with us on how that went about? Was that at one time, they're all called at a particular time, or was it by invitation?
Yes, our engineer performed basically a project budget and gave us a range of where he thinks he would see the project come in. It was a little over what we currently had allocated left in the project account. So we solicited bids electronically through 5 distributors who worked directly with the lighting representative that was hired by the engineer. All the quotes came back electronically, and the state contract price was right in line with the five other proposals we received. Everybody was in about $2,000 of each other.
Okay. And the state was the best evaluated at this point?
Yeah, the state was within $600 of the lowest bid received, and all that supporting documentation is here if you need to see that.
Yep.
We felt to be fair that we would utilize the contract due to the fact that nothing was publicly solicited.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? No, we're good.
Our staff, our facility staff, has begun painting the poles right now to try to get ahead of it.
Great.
There's been some tournaments scheduled for August, and a lot of things need to be kept in line on the calendar for getting this done in time. So we're trying to work in conjunction with the Classic Turf, the contractor, to finish the painting and try to get most of our work done before he does the final painting, and try to stay ahead of him. So
Right. Let's hope the rain stays away.
yeah, the weather's not cooperating right now.
Helping you any. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be helping too much with outside work, huh? Okay, great, thanks. All right, motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Number 3.
Okay. This is Doug's as well. There are 2 HVAC systems at the senior center that are both over 30 years old and have begun to deteriorate. This request is to utilize the state contract again to be able to replace both of these systems. This was part of the capital planning project as part of the budget process this year.
Okay, great. A motion on this?
Move to utilize the state of Connecticut contract number 10PSX0152AA for the purchase and installation of system number 1 of 2 for the senior center multipurpose room from Train USA of Rocky Hill, Connecticut, in the amount of $32,000.
Second on this?
Second.
Any discussion? Looks like we've 30 years. We've got a lot of work out of those HVAC systems. So looks like a good thing to be doing that. Plus, well, I guess we'll save some on efficiency too, I would imagine, once we put some new things in there, right? 30 years old, not too efficient anymore. Okay, hearing no further questions from the council, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Thank you. Number 4.
The next item, the town has been undergoing reviewing several local bridges and making repairs as needed as part of the state's local bridge program, where there is a share in the cost with the state and the town. As part of that process, and due to the complexity and some of the administrative requirements, there is a need to increase the amount previously authorized by council for this project, and that's what the request is for. And Jim Horball is here if you have any questions.
Okay, thanks. Motion on this?
Move to authorize the interim town manager to increase contract agreement number 2015-50 with Cardinal Engineering Associates Incorporated of Meriden, Connecticut, and allow the interim town manager to enter into change orders if necessary to an amount not to exceed $295,000.
Thank you. Second on this?
Second.
Discussion? Questions? Anything? I think we've kind of talked about this already, as I recall, right?
I just have one question. We have some indication that it's 50% of the entire cost will be provided by the state. I know that we have some bridges there where it was like 90-10. What's the difference on this one?
This is strictly a state local bridge program.
Okay.
It's being used to reconstruct. The Farmington Avenue Bridge is the federal project where we're getting 80-10-10. So.
Got it. Thank you.
The Farmington Avenue project, which probably could have built the Empire State Building almost.
We've had a number of issues.
Yeah, I know. We've heard. I'm just making light of it.
Contamination is not a good thing.
Yeah. No, we know. We got a lot of questions on that. People ask me that all the time. I'm sure we all get those questions. When is that going to be done? But I know we've had issues, and I know we're working on it, so we appreciate.
But I can tell you we've been very environmentally sensitive. There's
Good.
a family of geese that, with some
Is
young
that-
geeslings that have hatched
Yeah.
right adjacent to the bridge, so we've gotten our clearance from DEP.
Good. That's good. We probably built them a new home somewhere too,
Yes.
perhaps under
Yeah.
the project.
And we have birds nesting in some of the support structures. So.
Nice. So we've been there a very long time then, I guess. Yeah.
Yep.
People are making their homes there, animals. Okay, good. All right. No further questions on this. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you, Jim. 5.
The next item deals with the Berlin Water Control. Annually, the town requests outside services from contractors to perform routine work that the town doesn't have the capacity to perform. Typically, it is awarded to the first and second lowest bidders, and so this is a request for approval of that.
Okay, great. Motion on this?
Move to award contract 2017-29 routine repairs and minor construction of the water and sanitary sewer system to the primary low bidder, Tobacco and Son Builders of Bristol, and secondary bidder, Earth Contractors of Kensington, and to authorize the interim town manager to enter into agreements with the above parties.
Okay, thank you. Second on that?
Second.
Any questions? Yes, Rachel.
I do have a question, and Mr. Dream, I don't know if you can answer, but so because this is for kind of emergency work, and the bid was for $108,000, just wondering, kind of historically, what we have actually spent for this type of contract in the past 4 or 5
The
years.
budget is set aside for 100,000. That doesn't necessarily mean we spend
Yep.
100,000. Last year we spent 125,000. This year I think we're only like 20,000.
Okay, we had that
30,000
big water main.
in East Berlin primarily.
Yeah, okay. Okay,
So
so
it's
it
not-
really varies. It
it
just
could
really
vary.
is emergency based. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Number 6.
The next item is requesting approval for submitting an application for a steep grant to continue the process that the town has been engaged with for a period of time now, improving sidewalk and pedestrian connections in Kensington Center and Town Hall area. And Chris Edge is here if you have questions.
Okay, take a motion on this?
Move to authorize the interim town manager to apply for a 2017 steep grant for improving sidewalks and pedestrian connections in the areas of Kensington Center and Town Hall.
Second on this?
Second.
Mr. Chris, how are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. Oh, good, okay, yeah.
So I want to do a quick overview and then I can have questions. How's that
That'd
sound?
be great.
Sure. Essentially what this is doing is a couple different things. The connections, there were a couple pieces that were not able to be funded from our last steep grant with the sidewalk project. That is the streets of Newton, Percival, and Langdon. In addition, the map I've shown you is going to be creating a connection between the fields at Percival to the Town Hall Municipal Complex. which will also connect to the planned senior development. In addition, looking at doing a bridge from the Depot Crossing property to the Metabasset River, and hopefully we'll have a walking path in that area essentially to continue the work we have at this point. Those are the main areas that we're looking at with this steep grant itself.
Great. And this is, so we're putting it in now, right?
We are putting it in now.
It's like the time
Yeah,
frame?
it's a little later than the steep normally comes out. It actually had come out earlier. The notification for some reason did not come to us, so we're putting this in and
So,
hoping we'll be successful.
okay.
Right.
Questions? Yeah?
Oh,
Yeah,
go
go.
ahead. I have a quick question.
Yes.
What does sand lines mean? SANLINES?
I do not know.
You don't know. Okay, so it's nothing is going in because it goes right across all those fields, right? There's nothing
No.
kind of walkway.
No, nothing
really
is going to go
okay.
through there.
All right, okay.
I think that's a sanitary sewer.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
But, are these all on town property or private property?
The sidewalks itself would be, I think the sidewalks itself would be on the private property itself. What we're talking about there with the fields would be town property, and then the bridge and the path, I believe, would start on Depot Crossing, but then go into land trust property.
And these are gonna be stone dust, not permanent pavement, not
The
concrete?
stone dust is what the plan is right now,
And
yes.
who will maintain these, and will the property owner be required to clear the snow like a regular sidewalk?
The properties right there, I think those are all ones either the town controls or is part of. I think it's the town housing authority with these paths itself, so we would essentially be responsible for those.
I just don't wanna create a maintenance headache through the winter if they're required to stay open.
Understood. Yeah, I think that's something, again, as we look at this, it may decide to change that stone dust may not be the best option.
But right now, we're just applying for the money.
Yeah, right now we're just applying for
No
the money.
design
Again,
is
yes.
final.
Yeah, really what we're looking at now is conceptuals. If we get the money, we will then basically finalize, again, a discussion with weatherization, long-term maintenance will be part of that discussion.
Okay. Any other questions? All right.
I just
Yes?
Just one suggestion.
Yes.
Whenever you cross over a sanitary line, there's the potential to be dug up. So you may want to consider that in where you wander that red line here that's showing proposed.
Absolutely. I know that this was put together, Dave Thorne, our GIS gentleman, had put it together, and I definitely will take a look at that, because, yeah, that's kind of important.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
The next item,
7.
the next item is a request.
Go
that-
nowhere, Chris.
I'm not
The town's been invited to apply for the 2017 Responsible Growth and Transit-Oriented Development Program grant. So the request is to authorize the interim town manager to apply for and apply those funds to the area around the Berlin train station, as well as additional funds for environmental remediation in that area.
Motion on this?
Move to authorize the interim town manager to apply for the 2017 Responsible Growth and Transit-Oriented Development Program grant for the area around the Berlin train station, including additional funds for environmental remediation and for property acquisition to support redevelopment of 889, 903, and 913 Farmington Avenue.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion.
Yep. Just a quick question. I
Yes.
know that Tim Stewart was here a month and a half ago
Yes.
about a similar but different grant, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this is not in conjunction with that or part of that?
It is not. This is the second time this grant has come through. The first time we applied, we had gotten in a second set of monies for the facade program. So this is basically a follow-up to that. What we're looking at this point, I can just kind of go through quickly, is we are looking at purchasing some or all of the Conrail spur, which is between 889 and Berlin Steel property. In addition, the purchase of a property, which we had discussed in executive session previously, as well as looking at possible preparation of 889 for going into the RFQ process. So the money's used for a couple different things at this point, particularly looking at the property acquisition to assist us with the overall development.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you, Chris. Number 8.
The next item, in 2013, the town entered into a contract with Lauriero Engineering for work on 889 Farmington Avenue. This request is a revision to that for additional off-site testing work, and it would be paid for with the state regional brownfields grant project account.
A motion on this?
Move to authorize the interim town manager to enter into a contract amendment with Lauriero Engineering for $17,563 for an additional round of sampling of both on-site and off-site groundwater, additional general consulting and coordination services, removal of hazardous waste generated by the testing process and vapor sampling, to be paid from the state regional brownfields grant project account.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Chris, I know this, I was reading in here, I know I had a brief conversation with Mr. Mahoney today too. So it looks like the adjacent property owners have agreed, because I know we needed some agreements from the property owners, right, to go onto their property. They've agreed.
We have an executed access agreement from one of the owners and finalizing with the other.
Okay, good. So that's good. That's some progress there.
It is, and there's two different parts of this. One is we're going to be testing 12 wells, 10 of which are on 889, 2 of which are on the adjacent properties themselves. And then we also going to be doing some vapor testing, which essentially will help us to determine what is happening, if anything, and if it's actually going into the air. In addition, the Lauriero folks have been really helpful working with looking at alternatives, particularly to find ones that are most cost-effective, with the access agreements as well, because there were some language that we needed to work out. And the last piece is they've been working with us because we're working with Chubb. Chubb is the insurance company that we have, which is our company for off-site. So essentially what happens with this is the town will pay up to $10,000 and Chubb will pay above that. So it's essentially a $10,000 deductible.
That's our deductible on our town policy.
And the nice thing,
Yeah.
too, between Chubb and DECD, they've both been watching us very carefully to make sure that the numbers we're getting are in line. So we've been very careful with that. We are planning, we've been talking to both Jack and Jim Mahoney about once we get to 2017, 2018, bidding out all of our environmental. But because of the fact that we want to get this done in June is why we're coming now instead of waiting for it.
Yeah, and these are the people that have been doing it.
Yes, these are the
for
folks
us
that have
as
been doing
company.
it. Yes.
But by now, when we get further down the road, we'll bid out.
Yes, we're
additional
going to look at the
work.
various properties and bid them out, absolutely. It just happens to be this one, because of the time frame, too, the fact that we've been working, and of course, our corp counsel, Attorney D'Onofrio, would be able to back us up that it's been a process and that we finally have these guys. We want to move on this and start taking these steps.
Yeah, good. So Attorney D'Onofrio, so how are we doing on this so far? Good so far? I mean,
Yeah, certainly it was important for us to get Chubb on board. And whenever you add another party to the equation, there's additional processes, but we weren't getting what I would consider to be exemplary cooperation from the property owners previously. And I think the introduction of some new players into the process has helped move things along.
good. Well, it's good. So we have a couple different parties looking over it, as well as yourself and the town. I mean, we have the insurance company, right, and obviously our contractor here. So that's good. Okay. Any other questions from anyone? Anything else? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. 9.
The next item was part of this year's budget process as well, and this is to repair lockers in the boys' locker room at McGee Middle School. Due to state timing, the reimbursement will change when we hit July 1, as well as the need to move on the project once school lets out to make sure that it's complete for the start of the school year. This request there's a request to waive the bidding process and utilize the verbal quotes that were obtained. Eva Gallup and Doug Solik are both here if you have any specific questions.
Okay. Motion on this?
Move to waive the bidding procedures to order the required locker replacements for McGee Boys Locker Room and award the contract to CNA Distributors, since this is in the best interest of the town.
Second on that?
Second.
So Eva, what do you, since you're here,
So, one thing that we're allowed to do is we purchase on consortium. So there's many consortiums that will help us purchase for whether it's copiers, whatever supplies we need as a Board of Education, a public school system. When it's feasible, I let Doug know about these so that he also, because facilities falls, since we share, that they can also purchase off of these. So Doug did the research for us, and Robert H. Lord Company and Third Dimensions were part of consortium bidding processes. So those are publicly bid and awarded processes that the state of Connecticut also is part of that kind of a consortium purchasing process. So we decided to give, since the prices were coming in a little bit higher than we had anticipated based off of last year's go-around, to reach out to a local vendor, CNA Distributors, and they actually came in lower than the two people that had already gone through a competitive bid process. Doug can speak clearer to this. The Third Dimensions is actually a plastic product, so that's why they're sort of way out of left field there. That their bid came in at $76,000. So, but the R.H. Lord and the CNA is they're both metal lockers. They're both apples to apples, more so of a comparison than the Third Dimension, which was the plastic one.
okay. Yeah, I remember, I think when we were looking at this at the budget, I know we were always around, I thought 40,000 or
Because
something,
that was
right?
the
That was
mid-range
the
one
mid-range,
that
yeah.
I had pulled out, and I figured, well, we'd be at the mid-range, and
Yeah.
I'm floored this year, just floored.
Yeah. Interesting. Questions? Any other questions on this? Yep.
Just in terms of it being the boys' locker rooms, are we only doing the boys because boys will be boys, or will we be coming back for girls?
We're only doing the boys' locker room because they're in distress, and
Okay.
it really is a liability waiting to happen.
Okay, so girls are going to be able to hang in for
They
a
can
couple
hang
more
it. Yep,
years?
yep.
So are we to take from that
Boys were
girls
boys.
are a little
was
bit
implied.
easier
Nothing
on the
was
equipment than the boys, maybe?
Maybe.
No, I don't think that's surprising.
I can't speak to that.
I don't
Yeah.
have boys, so I don't know.
Yes, they are. We know. We all know. That's how it is. But yeah, I did see the locker room in there, and I think that locker room, if I'm not mistaken, is the original locker room. I think.
I
do-
want to say yes.
I kind of remember it
Yeah.
from way back when I happened to go there. Way back. It looks very familiar.
So
Although
maybe that's what happened to it.
yeah, well, it might have been. It could have been damaged way back then, and we just never fixed it. But I had nothing to do with it. But
Hope your initials weren't on there, Mayor.
no, I didn't see him anywhere. But no, I tell you what, I'm happy to see this done, because when I saw it, I mean, there's literally multiple sharp edges and rusted metal, and it's really quite a disaster. And when the principal happened to grab me one day there when I was at some function, and he said, "I got to show you this locker room." I said, "Okay, Sal, so let's go." And yeah, it's in pretty bad shape, so dangerous for our young people. So, all right, good. Any other question yet, Dave?
Yeah, just a question on the removal. That's not part of any of the proposals, and we've incorporated that into our town forces taking care of that?
Yes. Yes, our facilities gentlemen are very good to us, so yes, they were willing to demolish. And I'm all hands-on for it. I will take my stress levels out with a
Maybe we can all take
whatever I need. There you go.
a hammer to it. Gets our stress out, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. 10.
The last item is something that's been in the works for a while. Both our auditors as well as rating agencies have identified an area that the town has for improvement. While our bond rating is strong, one area that has consistently been identified is establishing formal policies in certain key financial areas and then implementing those in place. So this is the first step to that process, and this is seeking approval of the proposed policies.
Okay, great, thanks. I wonder on this, I mean, we're missing a couple council members, 3, I guess, and I know I read it over briefly, but it just maybe we can digest this a little bit, and also perhaps other council members that are here might be able to, they might have questions. So, I mean, I don't think there's anything earth-shattering in here, but I'd just like to give everybody a chance to comment on it, since it is a town policy, new town policy. So just do nothing right now. We'll wait. We'll put it on our next
Yes.
agenda.
Yes,
And,
I can easily move it to the 20th.
Okay, let's do that. Is that okay with everyone?
That's fine,
Just let
yeah.
everyone kind of
Yeah.
read it over a little bit more, and if we have
You know,
questions.
another option might be to move to discuss. I don't know if that is a
You
valid
can still bring it up as a
discussion.
discussion.
Yeah, if you want to bring up
Rather
some.
than move to adopt,
Yeah, you want to do that? We can get out maybe if there's some questions of Mr. Delaney now, and then we can get answers next time. That's fine with me. You want to do
a
that?
captive audience.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Mayor, I move to discuss the debt, capital, and fund balance policies.
Okay, second on that?
Second that, please.
Okay. So,
Can I start?
discussion?
So I have a couple of questions. One, this was developed, written by our auditors, or by you, by
me.
you?
By
Okay.
me, utilizing GFOA, Government Financial Officers' best practices, as well as incorporating excerpts from existing policies of various AAA-rated communities, both in Connecticut and outside of Connecticut.
Okay, so my first question is about debt will not be used to fund ongoing operating expenses of the town of Berlin. So, for instance, when we think about roads, historically, and not necessarily the best practice, but historically we have bonded the money to do so. If we adopt this for the next fiscal year and all of a sudden we're not allowed to bond that money, that means we're looking at $1 million or more per year that we have to find. So I think I would like some terms defined when we're looking at this to make sure that we are not, okay, so one, I guess, is it binding? What happens if we do go out to bond for things like roads? How does that policy get changed, or what is the procedures to change it? I think there needs to be some clarification around all of those types of things before we can move forward with anything in regards to this.
And I think it's important to define what operating is intended to be.
Right.
Typically, operating is used more for day-to-day activities. So, in other words,
Okay.
if we wouldn't borrow money to pay salaries, we wouldn't borrow
Okay.
money to pay the electric bill. Larger items, you could argue that they're more capital in nature, whether they be roads, bridges, buildings, or the like. But I could certainly define operating in that context
And
as
not
well.
to put more work on you, I just
Nope.
want to make sure we're all
Nope,
kind of
that's fine.
understanding, we're comparing apples to apples, we're talking the same language.
Yep.
And I do think there needs to be a discussion around what happens if somebody decides they don't want to do, if it needs to be changed, or is it binding, all of those things. So that would be my 2 cents for tonight.
Yeah, that's good, Rachel. No, I agree with that. And so, either Mr. Delaney or Mr. D'Onofrio. So I have that overall question too. Like, so what does this mean? I mean, I see it's a guide. It's but what? It's a policy, but how much latitude? And don't forget, next year we're going into a Board of Finance too. So I just wonder how that plays into it. Does it matter or not?
Right.
So just some overall general.
What I would say is on the top of page 2, just below the first and second parameters, there was a sentence added to provide flexibility. Town council will have the authority to implement policies and or present capital projects for referendum that will exceed the parameters listed above. That could be expanded as well.
Okay.
As an example, the high school project
Yep.
would push the town above. That doesn't mean that the town shouldn't engage in those activities. It would certainly provide either the legislative or budgetary bodies the ability to go outside if it was warranted for the town.
Okay. What do you think, Mr. D'Onofrio, just from a legal perspective, all right, so this is let's say we adopted this now. So now we come up with some project and just doesn't fit into this guidance for whatever reason.
Town council would have to modify the policy.
Okay, before we did anything, if it
Before
came,
you-
if it didn't
before-
fit into the parameters.
Before the town departed from the policy, the town council would have to modify it.
So let's say we approve this, even with modifications, whatever we do. So we approve it in the next month or two. All right, so nothing happens this year. So next year now, we go to the Board of Finance system. They want to do some things. So we're sort of, we sort of bound to follow this unless we
Unless the
modify.
town council changes it.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I suggest we go forward very cautiously, which is why I just wanted to, and I'm glad we got it out here. It's a draft. We know that. So, we can look at it in the next probably few weeks, and when the rest of the counselors are here too, ask some questions and talk to Mr. D'Onofrio and Mr. Delaney.
And I do feel that this really, with this new finance committee, Board of Finance, this really should be their purview. I really feel like I almost feel like we should wait until they're formed. It's only a couple more months. I mean, unless you want to get it done before start of fiscal year. But we already have our budget in place for next fiscal year, so we're not going to change anything there. But I do feel like this is, if I was going to be new on if I was going to be on a Board of Finance, this would be something I would want to have input on. And not to say we shouldn't do it, but just putting it.
What I will tell you is that there are communities, as I've looked into various parts, who do review these and adopt them annually, including with revisions. There's nothing that prevents reviewing this. I mean, it could be more frequently than annually, although I don't imagine it would be the case.
Yeah.
Part of the reason that I think we need to move this way is S&P for the last couple of ratings, at least, have identified really two areas where the town where we're less than strong. That's not to say it's weak, but less than top flight. One would be the debt level, and I don't think that's a surprise to anybody given the school project. And the second was policies. And the reason that the policies were such a big deal is for folks who are interested in lending money to the community, they want to understand what are the financial parameters that the community is operating under, what are the guidelines. So adopting them is the first step, and then over time showing that we're adhering to those policies, and that's kind of the logic. So I think the reason I wanted to bring this up now is that I think as we get going, they certainly can evolve. Many communities do that. But I think it's important that we get going on establishing policies so then we can also begin the process of establishing a track record to be used with rating agencies and auditors.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that makes sense. So both of you, I'm sure, have looked at other communities. I know
It's a best practice.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have you seen, obviously, some of the things like
Yeah,
this?
sometimes it comes out of an operations audit.
Okay.
Recommendations for best practices include developing policies. Sometimes it comes when a new auditor comes into the picture.
Okay.
So your auditor's only been on board for a year or so.
We just started, we had our pre-audit work, which traditionally happens in May. This was one of the questions, is we had a finding and suggested that you adopt policies. Have you done that? And the conversation was, we have draft policies and we'll be discussing them, but it is definitely front of mind still, but with the auditors.
Okay.
When's the next rating call? I'm sorry. When's the next rating call?
We would do that next year, so
Next
that
year,
would
okay.
likely be April of next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do want to point out that, and follow up with a question on it to Mr. Delaney. There has been an existing financial policies and procedures manual. I actually have a copy of that, and that was adopted in April 2000. And so it's not that we've been out with a policy. I think it's updating it to reflect things. I don't know if it became a wholesale, not easy to take that and show the changes, but that may be of some help to see what the shift is, what the support is, what the additional things that may not be in that current financial policies and procedures manual.
A number of those are in here. That certainly was incorporated. So there's two major changes between that policy and this one. The first is, since 2000, the SEC has implemented some additional continuing disclosure requirements, and we've had organizations like the Municipal Standards Rulemaking Board has come out with EMMA, so an ability to keep people aware of our financial statements and the timeframes when we need to continue to disclose how our financials are doing. So it's updated for that piece. The second piece is that policy did incorporate a discussion on a few of the metrics that should be considered. What this policy does is establishes specific numbers. So that policy talked about percent of grand list. This policy actually establishes 2.5% of the grand list would be the maximum amount. So it defines an amount that we would go after. The two items were chosen, one, because they're very commonly used, grand list being a reflection of the community's ability to assume debt. And the second piece is principal and interest payments as a percent of the operating budget, and that's the community's ability to service the debt. And I guess I would say ability and willingness to do so. And these are two that are very common, as I've seen. The variation that I've seen has been either a percentage of the grand list, or some communities, including some of our neighboring communities, actually establish a flat dollar amount. One of the neighboring communities says that the debt level will be no more than $30 million. So they put an actual dollar amount out there. What I have seen in the high AAA rated communities that are growing, they're typically using a percent of grand list, because it's able to vary. If your grand list grows, if you have strong economic growth, or unfortunately in the other direction, it would allow you to flex better. So those are the two, I would say, major changes from the original, previously adopted.
So that's the one where you pointed out total general fund debt, principal and interest shall not exceed 2.5% of the most recent certified grand list of the town.
Correct.
And what was the other section? Was it just the
Number
below
two.
it?
Number
It's
two
the-
would be,
okay.
10% of the town's current operating budget.
What are we at now?
I was gonna say.
Yeah, right? What are we
Are
at
we
now?
in-
Yeah.
are we
For
in policy now?
for
Yeah.
this year's budget,
Yeah.
we are at 3.8% of grand list for total debt,
Okay.
and we are at 11.1% debt service as a percent.
What, 11 point?
11.1%.
So we have violated our policy that we didn't vote on yet, but that's okay.
And the key here would be
Yeah.
less about it would be establishing the mark and then defining the path that we would have to get there, which would be presumably borrowing less than we have recently, which would bring the debt load down and related debt service, which I
Yeah.
think is consistent with the plan. But this would more formalize that and explain why, and I think it would help us from a rating agency and auditor perspective as well.
And obviously, as we go forward, as we have shown, I think these last two budget years, once the high school debt starts going down, which will be, I think, after next year, right? Or is it? I mean, start declining.
We
right,
start
I
to see
believe.
it, yeah.
So we would be getting below this
Mhm.
10%.
Right.
And,
I mean, to give you
20.
perspective, we were at 4% of grand list last year. So
Okay, so it's okay, yeah.
combination
yeah.
of a declining debt load and a growing grand list.
Right. We
allows you
bring
to-
the percentages down.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, that's good. Good. Interesting.
And I know
stuff.
we've talked about the debt, but I would say the fund balances are also very important to make sure that we have reserves for acquiring as well as maintaining our capital assets, and also having a reserve there so that we don't put undue strain on the taxpayers. The objective would be to have the resources and to be able to maintain a stable tax base as items fluctuate.
Okay. Go ahead, Dave.
I just
Yep.
a technical point. I think there's use of will and shall, and some seem to have. I don't know if they have any different legal significance. I hear that they may, but we may want to consider those words in redrafting it here as we go along. So I did see the two different ones, and maybe those are on purpose. You know, certainly that could be on purpose. So the other thing, Mayor, was just. There is a fund balance policy, and I don't recall, unfortunately didn't pull that out to see if that was different from what the 2000 version had, but here it's referring to a fund balance of at least 11% of the budget year's total expenditures. I wondered if that had changed. I've heard just voiced, a range. And is this a change from what it was in the 2000 version?
There wasn't actually a formal fund balance policy in 2000, but subsequent to that, there had been a stated objective of having an 11 to 15% fund balance. That had been the consistent effort. This would kind of document the base that we're trying to that we're aiming towards. It also deals with the pension trust fund, the health insurance fund, and general insurance fund, both of which are important for stabilizing. To the extent we don't have those reserves for those items, we self-insure the health insurance, and to the extent we were to experience a significant claim, it could ultimately result in coming back to the general fund and having to tap into general fund balance. So having those is also a critically important piece overall. And the capital reserve fund is really there in the event we have major items. Right now, we have a capital non-recurring piece, so if we have capital projects in a given year and they're not completed, we will carry that over. So something similar to that, but maybe a little bit more open-ended, so that there are resources. The proposal is that we'd have a reserve fund of $1 million. That number certainly could be changed, be lowered, increased, what have you. I'm just looking at other communities who have adopted similar policies.
And I know we talked about if for some reason we had to go forward and change this for, I think the typical, right, we've heard of the black swan event, if we've heard of that in financial circles, where something horrible happens, that God forbid we need a bunch of money, and now we're at these percentages that we can't do it. So the only way around it would be to change the policy. Is there a way to put something in here if there's I don't even know how we would word it, Attorney D'Onofrio, but because you don't know. Who knows what happens financially with going forward with the state, with the town. We might be at this number and now we're in violation, trying not to violate our own policy, but whatever event happens. So what is there a way
the rating agencies look at it differently. The more fluff and the more flexibility you have in your policy, the less of a control it really is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I get it. That's what they want. They want to see the control, of course, right? Yeah.
And I would suppose that if something like that were to occur, we would borrow the money, and the consequence would be that our rating would be lowered. I think that would be the consequence if that happened, but we would still, I would think.
We got to do what we got to do, if we had to do it. We have to do it, yeah. Okay. Would you be able to, when you go, if while we're going to, I think it's worth discussing, for a couple more meetings at least, if we have questions in the meantime, but I'm not sure. I don't think I have any problem passing it this year before the Board of Finance. But again, we could always go back and revisit it.
Yep.
But would you put in to some, for instance, it was helpful to know with these two questions. What's our the general fund, the 2.5%. Now we're at 3.8. If there's any place else in here that you've made some suggestions, just to know what we have now.
Yep.
Just so we can see where we fall within some of these. That'd be helpful for me to see. I think probably all of us to see what we're looking at and whether far afield we are of our new policy, or if we're close or whatever. So okay, anything else, Charlie? Anything? What do you think? Nothing. So yeah, we're gonna revisit this obviously a few times, and if we could have some of that stuff added, and whatever questions, whatever we all have, we'll talk to Mr. Delaney.
Yeah, and I definitely appreciate the effort put forward to this. I know we talked about this early on and needing to update that, and preparations for improved credit as well as other things. So thank you.
Yeah, no, it's
good.
good.
Review
it's
it.
Great. It's good work. We need, obviously, it's something we need, something the rating agencies look for. So we'll come up with the best product possible. So okay, that was just discussion. So we'll talk about that next meeting, if you could put that on there. So yes. Yes.
I move to add to agenda item number 11, renaming the caucus room A in honor of John Doc McIntosh.
Second on that.
Second.
Thank you. I know we had already kind of all agreed, I think, but Kate brought to my attention, I don't think we really did a formal motion. I know we had talked about it, so that's why hence we just added this today. We're looking at I think we're looking at the 20th, right? 20th?
Yes, it's going to be a dedication.
Yeah, right? Is that
I do have extra ones for the public.
Okay, great.
Can I ask a quick question of an audience member? I don't know if that's legal or not.
Actually, we do need to add it to. Yeah, let's just.
Oh, we have to add it. We have to
the
vote,
agenda.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
So, all those in favor of adding to the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So let's just make the motion, and we can discuss it. now that we added it to the agenda, if you want to make the motion.
Move to name Caucus Room A in honor of John Doc McIntosh.
Second on that? Second. Okay, so what do you guys?
I don't know if I can do this, but Mr. Lamaglio, you mentioned at one point that you had a portrait that you were going to hang. I don't know if that you still have that.
Yes,
And okay.
Sam Lamaglio, 78 Hickory Hill. We have a portrait that we made that's going to be hung in the caucus room, which will probably be the Board of Finance room. And under the portrait, we'll have his name plaque, his name underneath. And then we have a plaque, not a big plaque, a normal size plaque that we're going to put on the door outside. That we talked it over with the mayor over it. And then we'll just have a little ceremony. We invited the family. And tragically, his son died of lung cancer, so about 3 weeks ago, so he can't make it. We just found that out. We're going to have his sister in and his daughter, so it's going to be a small affair and some refreshments, and you're cordially invited.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. Got a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. Town managers report? Mr. Stand-in town manager?
The only thing to talk about is just a quick update. I imagine that most folks have seen what's going on with the state. The session ends officially tomorrow.
Great.
What a surprise.
The new deadline that the legislature has put out there is June 30th. They're aiming for. After that, my understanding is that the budget or the execution of next year's budget will rest largely with the governor once you hit July 1. And I think there's certain constraints such as municipal aid, but he has much more responsibility at that point. So there was also legislation that was passed through the House yesterday, which is now going to the Senate. Indications from both Senator Looney's office as well as the governor's office is, at least in principle, they seem to be aligned with it, which would provide an opportunity for towns to adjust the tax rate if there were to be an increase or decrease from funding compared to what was budgeted. There was also legislation that was passed through the Senate today. There's a different version in the House, which deals with the MBR and the ability to adjust education funding and basically lowering the MBR requirement or threshold for communities if state funding was reduced. So there's been some discussion about which one would be there. I know Eva's aware of it as well and can probably provide you better insights than I can onto it. But there's a bit of a discussion as to whether the House or Senate version, certainly if you're on the education side, one is preferable to the other. So there is activity going on at the state level, and it remains to be seen. I will say that in looking at the different proposals that have come through, the one constant that I have seen as a reduction across the board has been the elimination of the revenue sharing grant. That would represent, for our budget purposes, that's the $843,000. It's in the budget. I think indications are that there's a very good chance, regardless of what final measure comes through, that will likely not be included in the budget. So at least initially, we should be planning for at least that gap to our budget. I certainly think there's going to be something going on with education cost sharing. I did share out with council the governor's revised numbers, which are extraordinary for the community. And certainly the Republican and Democratic versions are not as dramatic, but I think we need to be prepared for pretty sizable cuts.
Great news. Great news.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yeah.
And you may not have the answer since Jack isn't here, but I'm just going to keep on asking about tax collector and purchasing agent.
Purchasing agent started yesterday.
Good, okay.
So she is here. She's engaged, very happy. I am happy that I can start to offload carrying that load. And I can tell you that there are a number of people around the town who are very happy to be able to, I think we're going to start back in on that process. The revenue collector, we made an offer. to someone. Unfortunately, she turned it down. So we posted it back out today. We are going back through all of the professional associations, the GFOACT, as well as the Connecticut Tax Collectors Association. We'll be posting it on the website. After the 4th of July, we'll be putting it in the newspaper. I'm sure it's no surprise to anybody, July is a very busy month for tax collectors. So we've put the deadline at the end of July, knowing full well that even if we were to establish the deadline for revenue collector, say at the end or near the end of June, there's no way we would be able to interview anyone in that classification during the month of July. They're just flat out every day.
So in terms of our tax office for July, one, are we prepared, now that we I know we have the interim, but with limited staff, everything's taking place that needs to take place. And then for July, what are what's the staffing strategy to make sure that we're able to handle it?
On the first part, we are. The M1, there was guidance from OPM that came out yesterday. M1 is an annual filing from the Revenue Collector's Office around the state to the Office of Policy and Management. They did offer up that between July 1st and August 11th, there could be an offer to waive penalties if you don't hit the July 1st deadline. Since our budget was adopted, I spoke with the interim revenue collector today, and we fully intend to meet the July 1st deadline because we have a budget. There's no reason. The budget and the certified grant list are available, and we'll go forward with that. You will see on the agenda next meeting the suspense list, which is required to come to you in June, so we are doing that as well. We are continuing to take collections. We are very much in the 99% plus range, so the office continues to do a great job. We are bringing on, we have the interim as well as the clerk, both of whom are full-time. We have a part-time person in the office who is full-time. She will be full-time in June. She will be full-time, as she has been in the past, in July and into August until she returns to school. We do have a person who has worked in the town hall before who will be returning, and she will be putting in additional hours as well to support the window in the office. And we are seeking another person who can also help on a part-time basis, basically from the last or next to last week of June for training through July and the first week or two of August. Okay. If any of you happen to know a college student who might be interested in that type of summer work, we are open to
good to know.
Hearing
I might have one for you.
We are definitely game.
So Sheil is not going to go to economic development during the summer months. She will be in.
She will be full-time. Okay. And Sheil continues to take the courses.
Yep.
Paula, who is the clerk there, just last Thursday took the test. She's completed the courses and took the certification test. So the office continues to move along exactly on the path from professional development and certifications that they were on.
Thank you.
So we'll be collecting our money and depositing it. No problem.
And July is critical.
Yeah, and spending it. Well, that too. That goes without saying.
July typically represents about 2/3 of the revenue collection with the motor vehicle and the property, personal property and real estate. So it's a critical month.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Well, that's good. I'm glad that's under control.
A little more upbeat than the state update.
Yeah, should end on a higher note, maybe. That's okay. Anything else? We good?
Oh, that's it.
Special committee reports. Are there any special committee reports? I want to. The ordinance. I want to.
You want to make a meeting for the ordinance?
Yeah, we didn't have it tonight at 6. If we could do it, Kate, can we do it Thursday at 6?
Yes.
Actually, I asked Counselor Campanelli. She's on it. She said that sounds good to her, so I think she can make it. Myself, who's on it? Charlie, you're on it.
Yeah,
you're on it, Dave.
Peter's on it.
Peter's on it.
Oh, Peter's on it.
Yeah, I'm not on it.
You're not on it. All right, I could call Peter and ask him, or we could tell Peter. And Brendan, is Brendan on it? I'll ask.
I think he is.
All right, we'll ask. But so let's do it. And what I just want to try and accomplish to start discussing the golf committee, if we could, just and we had, somewhere I saw, I don't know if Attorney General, I don't know who sent it. I saw a sample one from Meriden. Did you send it? Could you send that out to all the ordinance committee people, just so we could see what they did? And then we could just have some, just so this first meeting would just be discussion of that.
Yes,
I think.
and then you're going to have old business with the previously discussed proposed ordinances also.
Yeah,
There was 4 of them, I think it was like the lease law, the
Chicken.
then you have,
the chicken one, yeah, it's not really much in our purview, but we can,
I think that Jack already did an
Ye-
agenda for you.
okay, oh, okay, good. So whatever's on
You
there.
can send that out for approval. if you
Yes, that's good. And I know we were looking at, yeah, because we were looking at some changes, right, to the,
We're gonna be in the caucus room at 6.
we
I
are
believe
here.
it'd have to be the
Here.
town, it can't be here.
Okay,
It depends
A.
on how long you're gonna go. There's a meeting here at 7,
okay,
and there's a meeting in caucus room A, I believe, at 7. So
Oh.
it will be in the town manager's conference room.
oh, okay, all right.
That's
Fine.
my understanding when I talked to Sheila about it.
Okay, that's the only room available, in case we go over an hour,
Yeah.
which we may.
This Thursday, right?
Yes, this Thursday, so we can get started on a couple things and,
So is that pretty much set?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think most of us can make it, and again, it's just some preliminary discussion, so if people miss it, we'll do another one,
All right,
obviously.
and then I'll have the town manager send you out the agenda tomorrow just for approval.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, so that's that. Any other, well, that was special committee, counselor communications, any counselor communications? If not, hearing none, we'll go, we have the acceptance of minutes. Do we have enough,
I have to abstain.
yeah, okay, so, yeah, you weren't here. 3 of us is not, what do we need, 4, right?
But if she abstains, then it's
We need 4 to vote?
4 votes.
We need 4, right?
Yep.
So we'll just,
Do it at the next one.
next one, move
Next
that to,
meeting.
yeah. And that's it, so, motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved, thank you.